You're listening to the Boat Galley Podcast, tips, reviews, and how-tos for your cruising adventure. I'm Nica Waters, and this is Fit to Sail. The Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Sail Caribbean, the premier teenage adventure camp in the British Virgin Islands. Sail Caribbean fosters self-confidence, leadership, and personal growth through sailing, scuba, community service, and marine biology adventures. Empower your teen with an extraordinary Caribbean experience. Use coupon code BOATGALLEY to receive 10% off tuition. Slow down, slow down. Re-entry after cruising can be really tough, even if the return to a world most people can relate to is a planned one. We did this after our first cruise, when we'd eked out an extra year of our post-college boondoggle of a honeymoon. 3 years of cruising the Eastern Caribbean on Calypso, our 28-foot Bristol Channel cutter, and I was more than ready to come back to reality. I longed for life with a car, with air conditioning, with a freezer. The pace of life astounded me. How on earth can people move that fast? There are times when cruising comes to an end and it's planned, expected, longed for even. And there are times when cruising comes to an end and it's planned and it's crushing. That there are also times when cruising comes to a crushingly unplanned end is a whole other conversation. While it's obvious that one is harder than the other, there are some unexpected basics around re-entry that are universal, at least in my experience. Cruising is tough. There's no doubt about it. The physical existence, the challenges around simple chores like shopping and laundry and even flushing the toilet, the space and lack of privacy and constant need for vigilance about things like weather and holding and neighbors in the anchorage. These are all aspects that people back home just don't get. Their understanding of cruising is one from movies and magazines, one that generally involves beaches and hammocks, or pirates and 50-story waves. No matter how long you've been out, their lives have continued in the same routine of soccer practice and traffic jams, waiting for the cable guy and worrying about how effective the tick repellent will be for the dog this year. They may mean well and welcome you home with open arms, but their main questions will be about storms and pirates and sharks. They might ask how you stayed awake all night every night, or how you managed to feed the family since you were never on land. There is a common misconception that going cruising means never setting foot on land, that somehow you just keep sailing the whole time. And then they lose interest. When we returned from 10 months in the Bahamas, I figured it would be fine. This was, after all, our second re-entry, and this time we'd only been gone for a relatively short period of time. We were coming back to a familiar house, a familiar neighborhood, a familiar school for the kids. Unpack the bags, collect the pets, and life goes on, right? I'd forgotten just how fast life is on land. I'd forgotten how scheduled it was. I forgot how much space there was. Our daughter slept in our room for the first month, not because she was nervous or clingy, but because for 10 months we had lived within 30 feet of each other, and she liked that. The house felt cavernous and echoey, and stiflingly small at the same time. We missed the sunset routine of relaxing in the cockpit, searching for the green flash. The first time I went grocery shopping after our return, something I thought I was excited about, getting everything I want in one place, I broke down in tears in the tomato aisle. I'd just spent months living in a place where if you saw one kind of a tomato in a can, you bought it and celebrated. How on earth is anyone supposed to choose between diced and whole and stewed and fire-roasted and pureed and sauced and paste, let alone all the different brands? Why is this important? We'd kept a blog while we were away, and the kids sent regular updates to their classrooms, but there's so much about cruising that is best explained in person. We threw a pizza party and invited whoever wanted to come, bracing for the onslaught of questions. What about pirates? Pirates? Weren't you scared of hurricanes? Well, that's why we went when we did, in the off-season. Did you just sail around all the time? No, we anchored most nights. A night at sea was a rarity, something we did maybe 6 times in the 10 months. And that was it. Someone else fired off a question about soccer practice, or what teacher they hoped the kids would have next year, or what happened at Scouts the week before. Face it, nobody really wanted to hear about our adventure, probably because they had no way to make it real for themselves. While we were searching out laundromats in the Bahamas and building sandcastles, they had been busily living their regular lives back home, shoveling snow and picking paint colors. The shared vocabulary of suburbia didn't apply anymore, and nobody really seemed interested in learning a different language. We weren't particularly interested in speaking the language they knew either. Let's be fair about it. The best times were when we were at the yacht club, talking to sailors and friends who could get it at least in some way. They may not have been able to escape for any longer than a week at a time, but they could envision our lives. They could dream with us. I spent long hours emailing with friends who were still out there, desperate to have conversations with people who got it. People who could appreciate the joys of a flush toilet, the terror of life on the highway after life at 5 knots. People whose trials and tribulations, provisioning, engine troubles, making the bed on the boat, laundry, made sense to me in a tangible, real-life way. Slowly, I reacquainted myself with life on land. That didn't mean I had to love it, and at first, I really didn't. We just took 10 days and sailed with our friends on Sailing Totem, and I will tell you the reentry from that 10 days has been just about every bit as rough as the one from the year-long cruise, minus the conversations about pirates and storms. People can more closely relate to the idea of taking a week off. That's a vacation length that fits into their worldview. But I'm still surprised and a little hurt that so few people have asked about the trip. It feels life-changing. Isn't that visible from outside? I felt clumsy driving the car. I looked around our house and wondered why we have so much space. The grocery store felt massive. My daughter sobbed in my arms as she looked at the work she needed to do, the just-get-through-it feeling she had on land. As inane as it sounds, coming back from cruising, it's a grief process, and it hurts. What has helped? Reading posts on women who sail from women who are also grieving, going through pictures from the week, talking to friends who are still out there, even ones who were once out there, writing about it, processing through it while acknowledging that yes, the grief is real and it's okay to be feeling it. My daughter said it well, and this applies to cruising in general, when she said, "It's totally not fair to have something and then not have it." She paused. But it's more not fair to not ever have it to begin with. Maybe part of my grief this time is that our next cruise is so close I can taste it. That 10-day interlude was a sharp underlining of how right our decision is. Now I get to live my life on land, trying really hard to be present for the process. I'll see you out there. Thanks for listening. If you like the show, please be sure to subscribe in your podcast app. Just search for the Boat Galley Podcast, and reviews are always appreciated. Until next time, then.
Slow down,